Well, let's touch on Australian gun laws compared to American gun laws. Now, you're saying, what are you looking at here? Well, I'm about to show you why the Australian gun laws got changed. Now, this was filmed in 1986. It wasn't until the 1990s when the massacre happened at Port Arthur in Tasmania. Now, this video is in Tasmania. Malcolm Douglas, Australia, Bass Strait Adventure, 1986. So this is 6 years before the Port Arthur massacre in Tasmania.
It's a wild, lonely part of the Tasmanian coast, so it's not wise to stay too long. The next stop's Port Arthur, once Australia's most notorious convict colony. Now it's only a grim reminder of an infamous past. Founded in 1830 to cope with the enormous number of convicts coming to Australia, it earned a reputation as a brutal and dreaded prison. When it finally closed in 1877, 12,000 convicts had served time here. In 1835, the guard tower was constructed as extra security for the military barracks because the commander feared a mass revolt. Today, Port Arthur attracts visitors from all over the world, and every effort is made to stop the ruins deteriorating further.
Now, it's hard to imagine that within 6 years of that video, there was a massacre there by the guy down there now forever in a Hobart prison till the day he dies. So if you're wondering why, well, that's the scene, that's the place where all those people were murdered down there in Port Arthur in Tasmania. That's why our gun laws were changed by John Howard, the Prime Minister. Back on, I think, I'm going to go at the top of my head here. I probably got it wrong. 1994, if I think correctly. 93, I bought my bus. I was in my bus when it happened. That was 93. So I think it was 94, 95, maybe even 96. So even, 10 years later, after this was filmed, so when this here was being filmed, people were still walking around with automatic guns and everything else here in Australia. Everything was still like America is today. But it took a massacre at Port Arthur to knock it on the head. And then New Zealand turned around and said, oh, no, we don't need that. We're right, we're New Zealand. And then what did they get? They got the massacre over there by a guy from northern New South Wales in Grafton. And now people think, oh, New South Wales. It's actually the proper name of New South Wales. People don't realise this. Is New Southern Wales, as in Wales, England, Wales, Wales, not a whale, the fish. No, it's Wales, New Southern Wales, and then it was changed to New South Wales. But New South Wales used to actually cover South Australia, Victoria, over there to the West Australian border. And the West Australian border used to go directly from Darwin down to Adelaide. And then they moved the border back over to the west, and then they formed South Australia Northern Territory and moved the New South Wales border north to south to the east, and then formed the state of Victoria, then formed the state of Queensland. So even the state of Queensland didn't exist. It used to be New South Wales on one side and Western Australia on the other side, and Van Diemen's Land, which is Tasmania across Bass Strait, who was an explorer called Bass, and also Abel Tasman, who also was another explorer, captain, or whatever, and that's how you get the name Tasmania, Abel Tasman. Anyway, there you go, just a little bit of history. So that's why our gun laws got changed, because right here is where all those people got murdered.
Was constructed as extra security for the military barracks because the commander feared a mass revolt.
Now, isn't that funny? The commander feared a mass revolt, and here it was then, what, 100 years later, the guy committed mass murder. And that's what they call Van Diemen's Land. Now, we all know a demon means evil. So, it sort of like sticks with it, doesn't it? So all the evil people got sent to from England. And of course, now, the English said, oh, no, we don't want you over there in England 200 years ago. We'll send you over here to Australia. And then they didn't realise what they gave away. They gave us all the minerals and the gold and all the coal and all the iron ore out of Western Australia and all the coal and all the gold and all the opals and oh, England, you're so stupid. You gave away so much wealth. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. You sent us, our ancestors, to a place where we all now prospered. And you thought you'd just get rid of us and that'd be the end of that. But anyway, that's it. Van Diemen's Land. That what his name was, and of course, as he just said, he feared a uprising, convicts, and then 100 years later, what was his name? I can't even think of it now. I'm getting too old. Man, I'm getting old. I can't think of the top of it. I think it's a second. Anyway, he went in there with a gun. The tourist bus pulled up, and he started shooting people. He was mental. He used to kill cats and all that in his backyard and down the back paddock and down the creek. And his neighbours said he was weird and he didn't like going to school. And yeah, anyway, you can go and look him up anyway. Oh well, sorry to say, but that's the place there. They've got the Australian gun laws changed forever. And then, as I said, New Zealand didn't follow suit way back, 20 years ago, or 30 years ago. And they still had automatic weapons over there in New Zealand until, 3 years ago when they had the Muslim massacre at the mosque over there in, was it Christchurch or Auckland? And it was a guy from northern New South Wales from Grafton. It was a white supremacist. And he went over there and done what he did. And they didn't even ask him for ID. He gave his address of his rental house up the road from the mosque, and he just walked in there and didn't even do an Australian police check, and they just gave him a semi-automatic, and he went out there and he started shooting people. Then within days, you can go and look it up, the now current Prime Minister at the time of this video, uh, Ahern, she changed all the gun laws within a week. All those firearms had to come off the shelves straight away. All gun shops were told to shut. No ammunition to be sold straight away on the day of the massacre or the next day. During the night, all the owners got informed. No more gun sales. Um, and then they had a revise of every single gun in New Zealand that was on the market. And then they outlawed all the semi-automatics, and they all had to be returned back to wherever they bought them from, or they were going to get destroyed or whatever. And people who had the automatics had to hand them in. Yep, they had to hand them in or get the money back or whatever. I don't know how New Zealand done it, but they did it. They reformed the New Zealand gun laws within a week or 2 weeks, and within a month or two, the whole of New Zealand got cleaned out of semi-automatics. So now New Zealand has now understood how Australia felt 30 years ago, and now it's how long's it going to take America to wake up? I mean, look at England. Their police don't even carry guns. Yes, you didn't know that, did you? English police don't even carry guns. They got special squads of police with guns and semi-automatics and sniper rifles. But general duties police don't carry guns. So there you go. Gun doesn't solve everything. No, it's not guns that kill people. It's people kill people with guns. It's the problem. That's why they got rid of cyanide. You used to be able to buy cyanide in a shop here in Australia. I used to, when I was a kid, I remember being 12 years old, I used to walk into the local push bike shop where I used to buy me toy cars and me push bikes. I used to go in there and buy guns for a 22 gun. And I was 14 years old. That's how bad it was here in Australia. 14-year-old kid can go and buy 22 bullets. Yeah, work that out. In a push bike shop, kids' toy shop, toy train sets and bicycles and girls' bikes, boys' bikes, bells, and had guns up on the walls. Well, that's long gone. That was, 40 odd years ago. Long gone now. Actually, that same shop I went to where I bought all that stuff now is a hairdresser's. Yeah, that's in Richmond, New South Wales. But anyway, that's the there, me, Mr. Ominoid. That's why we've got to change our gun laws here in Australia. Yeah, Van Diemen's Land. Isn't it funny how they give it a name of evil, demon, and all that happens there is death. Now look at the buildings, they're all dead. Anyway, me, Mr. Ominoid, mrominoid@gmail.com, or leave me a comment. What do you think about this video? And go look up the Australian gun laws, the massacre at Port Arthur, and the massacre over there in New Zealand. Hopefully, it might help some American governments wake up to themselves. I don't believe people should not have guns. It's just like they don't sell cyanide anymore in the local chemist shop. Believe it or not, yes, you used to be able to buy cyanide in a chemist shop over here in Australia back in 1968. And you could also go into a local feed store where you buy all your horse feed and buy cyanide. Yeah, by the drum. Yes, a great big 80-gallon drum full of cyanide. Yes, we used to have it on our farm. Yes, my grandfather bought a great big tall drum as high as I was when I was 8 years old. The drum was bigger than my head and it was full of cyanide. And he bought it for $20. Cyanide. Can you believe in that now? What you could do with that much cyanide? I mean, if you're a mad nutcase, you could go and pour it in a local water supply somewhere and kill a whole bunch of thousands of people. But you used to walk into a horse feed shop and just go buy a great big drum as big as that TV set full of cyanide up vertically, like that way. Imagine it for $20 cyanide. You think it's a joke. It's fair dinkum. See you later.